Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Aloha, listeners! I'm telling you, are we in for a treat today? I cannot wait to deliver the goods to you today. I'm telling you, I got Maui'd. You're going to learn more about what that means in a few minutes. But the first and foremost thing I want to say is thank you. I truly want to say thank you, listeners, for coming on. We just went over 200,000 downloads for Referrals Podcast. That's 200,000. And we aren't even to episode 200 yet. So first and foremost, thank you. Also, you, the listeners, the viewers, the people who have been downloading this, you have done great with rating and reviewing the podcast. If you haven't done that quite yet, do us a favor. If you download it, you listen to it, and you like it, just do a quick rating, do a quick review, because here's what we know. People read them, and they do a couple things. One, they decide to listen to the show. Number two is they decide to reach out to the person who's doing the review and refer you. So make sure you put your information in the review when you do the review of Referrals Podcast. Speaking of shout outs, I need to give a shout out to Sean Rawls and Jerry Moran for an amazing card that I just got yesterday in the mail. My mom passed away. For those of you that didn't know that, she passed away recently. And I just got the most amazing card from Sean and Jerry. And I want to tell them verbally just thank. And I also want to thank all of you. I've gotten so many amazing cards and gifts and acknowledgments of my mom. And I just want to say thank you. You guys have warmed my heart, and it's been a great to honor her, my mom, and honor her intelligence and her reading and her smarts and her love and her support. She was my biggest cheerleader, and it's just amazing that you guys have really reached out and acknowledged that, and I just want to say thank you. Also, quick call to action, rms21.com. Referral Mastery Summit, our annual conference, is coming up. It is in Scottsdale, Arizona at the beautiful Hilton Scottsdale Resort and Villas. That is September 30th, October 1st, and October 2nd. I cannot wait for you all to meet my people, to meet the generosity generation, to meet the people who are high-level implementers of the 7L system. Great opportunity. I hope to see you there. Speaking of special opportunities, I have the special opportunity today to introduce you to a friend of mine. And a friend of mine, yes, you're going to find out how dang highly productive this guy is. You're going to find out how awesome this guy is. But I'm telling you, this guy is an awesome friend. And I'm not sure if there is a higher compliment in the world than saying, you know what, that guy, that gal is an awesome friend. Fred Haywood was born on the island of Maui a decade before Hawaii became a state, which I'm not going to tell you how old that makes him, right? But I'm telling you, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that he could be born a decade before Hawaii became a state. I'll let you guys figure out the math on that. The son of a sugar plantation doctor, he grew up playing with the neighbor kids who were Hawaiian, Japanese, and Chinese. He and his buddies tracked around the island. They surfed, they camped, they dove for fish from Honolulu Bay to Hana. When Fred was 17, he left home to join the world-famous Santa Clara swim team. In 1967, he and Mark Spitz were the first high school students to win the national championships in Dallas, Texas, and Fred became the fastest backstroker in swimming in America. Fred was a silver medalist at the 1967 Pan American team and became a multiple NCAA and American record holder in swimming. He went on to become the swim team captain at Stanford University. Fred continued his winning ways in another water sport. In 1983, he broke the world speed record in Weymouth, England, to become the fastest windsurfer in the world, a record he held for 3 years. Fred Haywood excelled in windsurfing competitions until, at the practically ancient age of 40, he gave up his professional sports career to raise a family and sell some real estate on his beloved Maui. He is one of the most successful realtors on Maui, in Hawaii, but in the United States and in the world. He's one of the most successful realtors in the world. And he is also a very popular teacher for realtors around the country. He is my friend, Fred Haywood. Welcome to Referrals Podcast, Fred.
Thank you, Michael. That was quite an introduction.
It's the truth.
I squished my head back.
I tell you, it's one of those where and there's so much more to say, right? I mean, it's like, and that's what I love about, you've got, for those of you that are listening to this, you can't see Fred's picture, but I encourage you to go to YouTube to watch the show when you do this, because he's got his memoirs behind him, and he wrote his memoirs. I'm telling you right now, this is must read reading. You've got to you need an interesting story. You want to hear an awesome story. This guy has an awesome story. We've known each other a long time, Fred. We met through an organization from one of my mentors, Howard Brenton. It's called Star Power. That's a name that people have heard quite often on Referrals Podcast and when I speak. And I had the opportunity to meet you on your home turf because Sherry and I were actually married on Maui. We had just Maui'd on everything that we did. And then we went back to Kansas City and we threw a luau as our reception in Kansas City with 300 crazies who ended up tearing up a golf course and costing us even more money. But that's a long story for another day. But you have to, I know that we're talking about a lot of things today, but it's like, you have to tell, I sold real estate in Kansas City, right? There's only so many flat yard, no tree, that kind of, you're in Maui selling paradise. What is it like selling real estate in paradise? And kind of give us a synopsis of your real estate career in Hawaii.
Thank you, Michael. That was quite an introduction.
Yeah.
I have to slow my heart pace down to talk to you. Selling real estate on Maui was actually started for me in 1973. I was working construction on a Friday afternoon, grouting a 3-story cement wall, holding on the rebar and hanging onto a grout hose into the walls for the cement while someone held the hose up. And I saw a realtor walk into the downstairs condo and walk out in about 10 minutes. And I could just tell by his body language that he had sold a condo. So I quickly just leaned over and said, "How much was that one worth?" And he said, $1,800. I started to divide $5.15 an hour into 1,800 and decided it didn't matter. I got off the wall that afternoon, cement all over me, walked into my friend's real estate office and said, "Okay, what do I have to do to get into this business? I'm not going to go anywhere without making more money." He said, "The course started last week, but just barge in tomorrow. It's Saturday morning at 9:00 and tell them that you're there to do the class and you'll catch up." I did that. The reason I got into real estate is I had these letters from Indonesia about surfing these most beautiful waves in the world with nobody around. And Maui didn't have many people surfing, but it was still more crowded. I used my first commission 6 months later on an airplane ticket to Indonesia to go surfing.
Wow.
So I was really motivated to go somewhere, have some more adventure. And you explained that we lived an adventurous start in our lives. I continued that philosophy of getting the most out of everything that I could, you know. Why not? My dad, I took off for Indonesia, and my dad says, "You just made your first sale. Why are you leaving? You're going to break this run." I said, "No, Dad, I accomplished my goal. My goal was to get enough money to go to an island out in Indonesia and surf." Anyway, that was quite another awesome adventure. I stayed 2 months. I lived on the beach in Bali and Kuta for $1 a night.
Wow.
There was it was pretty primitive.
So
that's how real estate started. But selling real estate in Maui over the years, we had to explain what condominiums were because they were all new.
Yeah.
We had to, at the beginning, I had to read the newspaper on Friday afternoon. So I would find out who is selling some property that would pay me a commission because there was no MLS. I mean, think about it. No MLS, no books, no computers, no phones, just
and a paper.
Wing it.
And a paper. Like, I mean, like newspapers don't even really exist anymore.
No.
So it's so let me ask you this. What were the prices of the homes when you got into it? Well, and then like, what are they now? Like,
well,
I'm
that
just
first
genuinely
home
curious.
I sold was probably a 1,500 square foot A-frame on 2 acres. It was almost brand new. And I sold it for $92,500. Today, that price would be somewhere as close to $2 million. My dad had an opportunity to buy a half-acre lot in probably around 1950 down in Wailea, which is the best resort on Maui. He had a half-acre lot lined up that they were going to sell him for $2,000. My dad says, "Look, I need 2 lots. Half an acre isn't big enough," because he's from Montana, right? Think big.
Yeah.
So he didn't buy that $2,000 lot. That lot 5 years ago sold for $10 million.
Yeah.
So, real estate, it's really wild because the better the location, the higher acceleration of value. And if it's beachfront, the even more higher accelerations. And then, we're always trying to explain, the price shock when people come in. The internet's helping that because they're looking way ahead of time now. And a lot of our leads are coming from the internet. So I always explain to people, well, the first 3 days, you're going to be in shell shock. And let's just name that price while we drive along and you try to tell me what houses are priced at. So once we play with it, they kind of get it and understand that, oh yeah, it's 2 or 3 times what I could get on the mainland.
That's what I was going to say is do they usually guess like 50% of what it really is?
That's how they start.
Is that how far they are? Yeah. Yeah.
That's how they start. And
that's where we were.
And if you just make it fun for them, and hook into how they feel, everything's about feeling. I was out showing some oceanfront, and last year, and I just asked how it felt at the oceanfront because money was no object. Mm-hmm. And we went to one, we went to another one. By the third one, he goes, "Well, this feels like it."
Wow.
And so it really is selling your feelings. Yep. and feeling good about what you're buying, and obviously in Star Power we were taught about urgency, right. And how to question people. Like if someone asks you what the price is, you might reflect, well, the price is $995. Is this the area you're looking to buy into today? Right. So you answer with the question all the time, but you start your first discussions with people about price and area. So after they say, well, it is the right area, and then you might say, well, is this the price range you're looking to buy into today? You're asking for urgency, because the first thing you need to get to is people's motivations.
That's right.
So if they're not willing to buy today, I need to send a list with them and a map or their Google Maps, and go take a look at all these things from the outside. And when you are ready to buy, let's get back together. Because a lot of people looking for a tour guide, and you have to be careful not to be a Pop-Tart and just jump in your car when someone says, can I go see that ocean front? I'm on the way to the airport.
Yeah.
I get a lot of that.
I was actually going to ask you, like, how do you not become an unpaid? I mean, listen, here's the thing. A lot of realtors in a lot of cities are unpaid tour guides of their city. They're just driving around looking at properties, and then it never becomes a transaction. It never ends up happening. How do you prevent that? And it sounds like you're doing that with upfront questions.
Really upfront, are you locked into any realtors? Have you been pre-qualified? Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have asked you that will help me understand your situation today? You get 3 deep on one particular subject. Like if you're talking about price and they're not sure, you ask it again in another form, and you ask it a third time, and they might come to clarity on what they want to do. So I think my biggest breakthrough was I went to a meeting in Lahaina around 1993, and Howard Brinton was there. And he said he interviews these realtors across the nation, and he's got tapes and dialogues. And if you listen to these tapes 1 hour a day, I will guarantee you exponential increase in your income. And I went, oh, I didn't have any money.
Sign me up.
I had just finished my real estate career. My windsurfing career. And I wanted to make sure that I could advance faster. I bought all his tapes.
Yeah.
And I started listening in my car, in my home. I broke the reverse button in my car tape deck, and then it was CDs and whatnot. But I ended up listening 4 hours a day, because I thought if I could swim 4 hours with Mark Spitz, I could certainly listen to tapes for 4 hours.
That's right.
So it was really simple once I got language down. Mm-hmm. How to question people, how to keep their curiosity, and how to promote any property that you're trying to sell.
Yeah. There's several things one thing that I love about Fred Haywood, right, is that I was from Kansas City, and I was doing real estate like the way I did real estate, was running and gunning, go, driven, like very fast pace, like, hunting, hustling, going, right? And when I was introduced to you and had a chance to sit down with you at, I believe it was the Phoenix Star Power, and then I got a chance to visit with you in Hawaii, is that real estate and business can be done in a different way. Like, my way might have been counterproductive in Maui. Like, it would have just been too intense. It would have been just too upfront, forthright. What I loved about you is like, it was more like God, how do I compare the difference? Mine was more of like go, choo. And then mine was like a jet boat going to get a home. Yours was a pontoon leisurely ride on a lake, and yet you got to the end before I did, and I thought I was going really fast in a jet boat. You know what I mean? People would buy really quickly from you. It was almost, here's what's funny. I felt like I was creating a sense of urgency in buyers and sellers in Kansas City. And in Maui, what I saw was it's almost like the buyers and sellers are creating a sense of urgency in Fred Haywood. You have, you know what I mean? They're almost like, Fred, can we write this up?
Well, they had to catch me because I was going windsurfing at 1 o'clock to 3:30 or 4, and then I'd come back and work some more. Or I never opened my office on Saturday and Sunday because I wanted time off. So I sold real estate, and some of my star power friends came by my office twice on the same weekend on different days, and they couldn't believe that the office was closed. And I said, well, we're just a small company and I don't care.
But that's what I love, though. I mean, it was so yin and yang as far. I mean, what was so beautiful is literally your buyers are saying, let's write it up. Whereas in a lot of cases in all this, it's like, hey, let's write it up. We have to be like, hey, let's write it up. Or, hey, we got to talk. We have to go with these questions that lead to writing it up. And it was kind of just that opposite of man, it's just like a great way to sell real estate. You didn't pressure anybody.
Well, you didn't. I mean, said, maybe I should move over here and work with you. And I said, I'd welcome you to do that because we would kick butt.
Well, I'm telling you, maybe I should have, right? I mean, it's one of those you look back. Yeah, it all worked really out well. It worked out pretty good. But it is interesting that, my mom just recently passed away, and you thank you so much for what you said before we came on air today, and I really appreciate that. But there was only one place that my mom would have moved from Gardner, Kansas. She literally died she lived and died in the home that I grew up in, right? So all those years, one house. Terrible for my real estate career, right? I mean, come on, Mom, can you move a little more often? But there was only one place that she would have ever moved, and it was Hawaii. That's where she would have gone. So her favorite trip was Hawaii. My brother took her once, and we took her twice, and awesome. So I have to tell you, I don't know if this feels like backtracking, but we've got to talk about the swimming and the Mark Spitz story. I mean, you're in Hawaii. How did you get connected to the Santa Clara opportunity, and what did you learn from swimming with Mark Spitz? For those that don't know, Mark Spitz won 7 gold medals in the Olympics. He was basically, for those of you that know Michael Phelps, he was basically Michael Phelps before Michael Phelps. And it was Mark Spitz, right? Right. So Fred worked out with him on a regular basis and was part of, the Santa Clara swimming team was number 1 in the nation. It wasn't even close, right? If you were a good swimmer, no. If you were an unbelievable swimmer, you went to Santa Clara, right?
Right. Well, I wasn't unbelievable. I was mediocre in Hawaii. I was actually swimming in a pool that was constructed with 2 big long telephone poles holding up 2 rafts and anchored in an harbor at a prep school near where we were going to prep school. And coach would wake me up in the morning 4:30 and take me down to the pool to swim by myself, and then I'd come back in the afternoon. Nobody even knew it, but I had trained already, and then I was doing the afternoon workout. That was my junior year. And the summer before, I had left for a summer trip with Suichi Sakamoto and 15 Hawaiian kids. And we were going on a Greyhound bus across the US and back for $99. And the first place we stopped was Foothill College. And there was a swim meet there, and we all participated. And I was kind of blown away at how fast the girls were and the guys. And I got a tap on my shoulder. And I turned around, and this kid's standing there, and he goes, I always wanted to meet someone from Hawaii. Are you from Hawaii? And I said, yeah, my name's Fred. What's yours? He said, my name's Mark Spitz. I said, cool. He said, I lived there for 2 weeks, but my parents moved away. And then I watched him swim. And I went, oh my gosh. I went back to school and told my coach, and he said, if you'll go your senior year in high school to Santa Clara High School with Mark Spitz, I'll guarantee you go to a better college than if you sit here and get straight A's. I said, can you help me? He wrote a letter. I got to go. My dad supported it. I trained that summer. I was very mediocre. I had to catch up with the girls in the pool. I mean, I had only trained 3 months a year for 6-8 years, and all these kids had trained for 15 years, double workouts all year round. So I was way behind. Into the school, at high school, I went to Santa Clara High School, and we were training one day doing 100-yard repeats with 10 to 15 seconds rest. I got less rest. But anyway, Mark was swimming with me in the lane next to me, and he beat me 20 in a row by at least 2 body lengths. And I turned over on my back, and I had to do the next 10. I decided I can't do this freestyle today. I'll swim backstroke. Well, the other lane was Mitch was sitting there, and he was the national high school backstroke champion. I mean, I'm swimming with the freestyle champion, the backstroke champion, and trying to keep up. Mitch beats me 10 in a row. And I'm gasping for air after the 30th one again, and we have a 5-minute break, and Mitch looks at me and says, "Fred, you have the ugliest backstroke I've ever seen. You're bobbing and weaving and hitting the lane lines." And I clenched my fist.
You're ready to punch him.
I took a deep breath and went underwater, held the lane lines, and blew out and screamed, came back up and said, "Mitch, you have the prettiest backstroke I've ever seen. What do I have to do to look like you?"
Wow.
And Howard talked about being out of judgment and staying in curiosity.
That's right.
This was, a good 20 years, 40 years before meeting Howard. It made a lot of sense. Mitch says, "Oh, get out of the pool. My coach showed me something, and let's use this towel here." And he wads up a towel, and he makes me hold it up over my head and throw the towel down at the pool deck. He says, "There's your problem." And I look around, and the towel's 6 feet away from me.
So you're throwing this over the back of your head, right?
I'm throwing it like a stroke.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Mimicking on both sides. It was landing 6 feet away. He says, "There's your problem. Make that land next to your baby toe." I threw it again. It landed in the same place. He says, "No, bend your elbow and put it behind your back and bring this shoulder over your nose, and then do the up stroke while you're throwing underneath your body. It's good leverage." Well, I had surfed all the time with my arms like this under the board, and I've been swimming with a straight arm in backstroke. I thought if I planed my back and swam straight arm, I would get more water and go faster because I'm planing. Wrong. I jumped back into the pool because I could throw them. I started to throw them next to my toe. 5 minutes was up, and we were going to do another set of 10. Now we're on number 31 now. And I stand up and watch him finish. And I do it again and again and again. And
you were beating him.
He wasn't really happy.
Yeah.
He had some more words. He first he insulted my stroke. Now he is just insulting me. But it was cool because I said, "Well, Mitch, this is easier. This is way easier."
Yeah.
The 39th, after the 39th one and beating him 9 in a row. Now he is the number 1 high schooler.
Yeah.
And he's just shaking his, "I can't believe I give you a stroke. Let's race on the last one." And we do a push start, and I swim the best time of my life that I'd ever swam. And coach goes, "Oh my God, I'm going to put you in a dual meet with Mitch the next weekend. And you're not swimming freestyle, you're swimming backstroke." I went and swam and beat him and set the national high school record. A week later, because the coach wants to take me to the nationals with Mark now, because I'm ranked 9th instead of 70th. I'm now ranked 9th in the nation. I'm at Mark Spitz's house, and he's talking to his dad about winning 6 events, although he could only enter 3. And I said, "Boy, this is a culmination of all my dreams, to be sitting here with Mark Spitz talking this story with his dad. I'm the only one with the family." And after an hour, they decided which 3 they were going to swim. And Mr. Spitz looks across the table at me and says, "Well, Fred, what are you swimming and how are you going to do it?" I said, "Well, I'm swimming 100 back, Mr. Spitz. If I could go half a second faster, maybe I could get a 3rd place." I had just swam 3.5 seconds faster than my best time this past weekend. I thought I was gloating, I felt bad saying it. I was kind of embarrassed because I come from humble beginnings.
Yeah.
However, he repeated himself again, and a third time I repeated myself, and finally he points his finger at me. He says, Fred, there is only one person in the pool everyone's going to remember. And 2nd through 6th are all losers, and don't you ever forget it. And all the silverware bangs on the table.
Wow.
And I just kind of slumped down in my chair, feeling embarrassed for that. I didn't know how to take it, because I figured if I was a B- student in school, it was good enough, and B- in the pool would get me into a good college. That was good enough. Anyway, nationals came up the next week. I went a second and a half faster and beat the NC2A champion and everybody at the pool. So all of a sudden, I was going to go to a better school, and I had 20 or 25 full rides offered to me.
Well, all right. So there's so much to unpack from that, right? So number one, how many high schoolers, you were on Hawaii, right? You were in Hawaii, and you went to California for your senior year.
Right.
And your dad was supportive of it. So I don't know all the dynamics, right, of your family or anything like that. But I mean, I can't imagine. It's like Max is like, hey, I want to go to school in England my senior year. Right. I would be like, whoa, like, wow, wow, yes, no, like that's a decision.
Kind of shocking. You got to give it up.
That's a decision, and what a supportive decision. And then you go there, and we need to unpack. The next thing is what you said I love in the beginning is the first few days you had to swim faster to catch the girls, right? Yeah. Which all of us guys can relate to in life. But in this case, it's one of those where the girls were even swimming fast. The swim team was on a level that was unbelievable. Right. And then the Mitch story is so good because, Fred, it was one strategy that you would have not gotten maybe anywhere else in the world. But you got that strategy because you didn't punch him.
Right.
I mean, you could have just, how many people in today's world are offended and the first thing they want to do is strike back? And I'm talking social media. I'm talking in person. I'm talking in life in general. You didn't strike back. You didn't say something negative. You didn't say something that could have ruined everything forever. You went underwater. Yeah.
I never would have had any tip had I responded emotionally, because I was really upset.
Well, of course you were. He said you had the ugliest backstroke he'd ever seen. Like that's fighting words, baby.
Here to become somebody.
Yeah. Well, you were somebody. You were the guy who had the ugliest backstroke, right?
Yeah. And Michael, it goes back to this. I thought that if I could find the eagle's nest in life of whatever I want to do, right? I'll seek out where the eagle's nest is, figure out a way to get into the nest. Now, I'm not going to be an eagle in that nest. It's going to take a while to grow some feathers. Mm-hmm. But one day I might learn to fly, and hopefully I can soar like an eagle in the nest. And kind of going along that philosophy of everything I did. Hey, if you want to take on something, go hang out with the best people. And don't be arrogant. Don't be presumptuous. Have no anticipations and no regrets, and just be there and absorb and listen and ask questions, go for it. And I love your book, how you're meeting with people in restaurants and you're talking about how they feel about things. I mean, it's coming back to that feeling, and if you're striking a chord with people's feelings, you're communicating with them really well, and you're creating a bond, and you can get into it. Yeah. I complimented that adversity, right?
That's right.
You have the prettiest backstroke. What do I have to do to look like you? I didn't take it and go down the rabbit hole of self-pity and whining. I could take a hit. It was okay. When I won the nationals, I was interviewed by Sports Illustrated, and he asked me if I wanted to call someone. So I called my dad. My dad has never seen me swim.
Wow.
He's a doctor. He didn't have time, but he saw me surf because a couple times he came out surfing in front of the house. I mean, we had surfboards, boats, and El Toros to deal with every day on our life. Well, I called Dad from Dallas and I said, Dad, I just won the Nationals. He goes, what's that, a high school meet? He just didn't know.
He didn't know.
I said,
and it's okay, right?
Yeah, it was okay.
I said,
no,
good
Dad.
for you, son. And what are we having for dinner?
Well,
right?
He didn't say it that way. He waited. My dad was smart.
Yeah.
I said, isn't it great? Well, what's great about it? I said, Dad, I don't know. People are just, they're slapping me on the back and telling me it's great. And I'm just repeating what they're saying. He goes, well, it's over now, isn't it? Yes, it's over.
Wow.
Well, I'm very proud of you, son. Congratulations. So he just wanted to bring humility back into my life because we had grown up with a lot of aloha around the islands with multiracial living and a giving spirit,
Yeah.
And actually, Michael, you have the aloha spirit. You have the giving generation, what do you call it? The
generosity generation.
Generosity generation.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
I used to say, hey, if you come to Hawaii, my house is yours for as long as you stay, and you don't have to pick up your clothes. You don't have to do anything. You can eat all my food, and when you leave, we'll just say goodbye, whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't as if I had rules. We were just giving, and humility was high ranking. So, well, that just started out the adventures. Dad saw me swim on ABC Wild World of Sports 2 weeks later because the tapes were not in Hawaii when we did it. So, they had to ship them over.
Right. Wow. And I love what you said about, that story about your dad is just, it tells a lot about your dad. It also tells a lot about you, and your upbringing. And right. It's the joy of it. The beauty of it is we can have all these accomplishments and accomplish a lot and still be humble, right? And still bring it back and still, but I also have to tell you, I love what Mark Spitz's dad said.
Oh,
I really do. And I love that he did it emphatically to where the silverware jumped. You described it so well. It made a sound. It was, it did, if he wouldn't have, he said second through sixth is first loser, basically. It's a Ricky Bobby thing, right? Which is, second place is first loser, right? If you ain't first, you're last. And, the thing is, Fred, if three agents interview for the listing and they go, man, Fred, you were fantastic. You were so nice. You're so knowledgeable. You could probably get this home sold really quick, but we wanted to let you know that we chose Jody, right? And Jody got first place. Well, all those compliments, listen, you got second place. In second place, real estate doesn't pay very well.
No.
So we still have to be competitive. We still have to have that drive. It's how we react to both those. How do we react to winning? And your father was a huge impact on that, obviously. And then how do we react to losing? We don't punch the seller out. We don't punch it. You know what we do? We go, you have the prettiest house on the street, and I hope it sells quickly. And then all of a sudden, Jody doesn't get it sold. What do? They come back to you and say, hey, listen, can you get our house sold?
And you know what the three best things in life are?
You tell me.
To be the firstborn son, the second wife, or the third real estate broker. The third real estate broker is the best. Now
That's right.
Price reduction and then sellers eating out of your hand.
That's right. They have been educated by the market at that point, right?
But when Mark, when I was at dinner with Mr. Spitz and we were leaving a week later, he made such an impact on me, Michael, that I actually had my first swimming dream. 3 days later, I dreamt that I won the Nationals, and I'd never had a swimming dream. And what were the chances of some guy ranked 70th last week winning the Nationals this week?
Cinderella story out of nowhere.
Cinderella story, but I've had a few of them in it. And, I think everybody has opportunity for Cinderella stories if you listen to the music that's around you, opportunity comes in adversity quite well packaged, because if something is going wrong or someone is approaching you adversarially, they're doing it because they might know something more than you know. And if you can turn that around to question them, well, what is it that makes you feel that way, Michael? You know, what would I have to do to look like you, to sell like you? I've always had that in my mind, that I could learn from everybody. And I think the best lessons are when you're facing adversity, because they make such an imprint. And so I took the scholarship to Dad. I said, Dad, here's the scholarship. Just fill out this 2-page financial and we can go to Stanford. How's that? Well, what do they want to know? I said, I don't know. It's a standard form, 2 pages, and probably what your assets are and your income is. It's none of their GD business, what I make. You just go to Stanford and let that scholarship go to someone else who needs it. I said, cool, Dad, that's cool. I'd love to go to Stanford, so we'll go. And the scholarship got to go to another swimmer.
Wow, I did not know that.
My dad was quite special.
Wow.
My friends would sometimes gather around my dad. My family was all so funny. Everybody told jokes. If you talked about your greatness, you'd be chopped at the knees.
That's
if
right.
You talked the best joke, you'd be replicated.
Celebrated. That's right.
Celebrated.
Legendary.
Humor and humility preceded everything.
So let's move into, all right, so swimming is behind you, Stanford's behind you, you're going into windsurfing. So how did you begin windsurfing, and how did you literally changed the North Shore of Maui.
Well, it's one of the partners changing it. Yes. Yeah. My closest brother died in 1980. At the same time, you're too young to know this, but in 1980, we had an interest rate change from 9 to 19% overnight. Now, what are we at? 2.5 right now?
Right. And he's talking about mortgage rates is what he's talking about. The lending rate went from 9% to 19%.
19. Right? That's where the new financing was the next day.
Yeah.
I went to my open houses and people were kind of laughing at me. What would you be doing here trying to sell real estate? We're all going to the stock market. Anyway, I couldn't imagine. And then my brother passed away and we were living together in this house that actually had some commercial designation under it. And I went to a party with a couple friends. I had met a couple guys that windsurfed in the Kaanapali to do lessons on the beach. One was the inventor's son, Matt Schweitzer, and Mike Waltz was world champion too. He had sailed in, and I ran down to the beach and met them. And I said, "What the hell is this? Where'd you come from?" Because I didn't see them come down the coast. They said, "Well, we sailed 6 miles down the coast to work." "Well, how are you going home?" "Oh, we're going to sail."
Wow.
I said, I'm in. You can go down the coast and up the coast. I'm in. 3 weeks later, I opened Sailboards Maui. One of those guys, Mike Waltz, told me that Hokipa Beach Park on the North Shore was the best wave riding potential he'd ever seen because the winds are side shore. I said, "Oh yeah, we only surf that till 9 a.m. because the wind comes up and it blows out the surf." And I said, "Is that where it's happening?" He says, "Yeah, but I can't afford a car to get there." I said, "Let's go down to the bank. I'll co-sign your loan." And I had just met him a couple of weeks before, and he was teaching me how to sail. And I co-signed a loan for him to go to Hokipa. We ended up doing a shop together. He won the first 3 contests that we put on at Hokipa Beach Park, wave riding. And at the same time, I had, we were shaping boards. We had another guy, Jimmy Lewis, shaping boards, and Bill King was our partner too. But Jimmy Lewis shaped a board that was bought by a Frenchman who set a world record in 1982 in Weymouth, England. And we arbitrarily somehow used his photo and put it in an ad.
Yeah, accidentally, later, purposely, right?
Accidentally. Geez, you think this is okay? Sure, it's our board.
Yeah.
Sailboard's Maui, fastest board in the world. He came into the shop and says, Fred, I want some money for that ad. You're using my image, my thing. And, I said, Pascal, we don't have any money. We're on a shoestring, but I tell you what, we could probably get you a discount on the new board. And he ended up with that. He was happy with that.
That's awesome.
And he was kind of digging me a little bit. And I said, well, don't worry about it, Pascal. It's a good board. But I'll just come to Weymouth next year and kick your butt. I said, I'll just come and beat you next year.
Yeah.
And we had both laughed. And he was a friend,
Yeah.
But how boys are, they'll challenge each other.
Puff up their chest, right?
Yeah.
You gotta do that. Yeah.
I said, don't worry about it. I'll just come and beat you and take the world record next year. I went down to the beach the next day, started sailing I'd sail down the coast 5, 6, 8 miles, full speed, pack up my gear, hitchhike back, go up to the top and sail back down again. I did that constantly for a whole year. And I got a little sponsorship to get over to Europe. And we went to a French contest with 315 speed sailors. I ended up in last place.
Huh.
And I couldn't even get going because my equipment was so small and so radical and I was so big that I just sunk my board every time I tried to water start because their winds weren't like our winds. They were on Maui,
Yeah.
Basically, that contest finished and I went over to Weymouth a couple weeks later and it turned right around. The winds blew 40 plus knots and I jumped on the course and broke the world speed record just like that. First run, boom.
Same board as France?
Yes.
Everything was the same. It was just different elements.
Yes.
Wow. Now
just, you typically want to ride a smaller piece of equipment in most sports too, right? So
right.
You can't ride it in light winds. You have to ride bigger equipment in light winds. And I wasn't there for light wind sailing. I was just focused on that record. And we broke the record and it was quite a joyous time. And I got sponsored.
And made the shop a destination, right?
Yeah, all of a sudden all the photographers were coming to Maui to take pictures of the wave riding because nowhere else was a spot so close to the beach that you could take and full frame guys in a big wave taking aerials or bottom turns and doing crazy things and loops and stuff. That all started happening. So the photographers were moving to Maui, the sailors were moving to Maui, and as you know, a lot of people move for the sports. And the sport has really advanced into kite surfing and wing foiling now. They're holding on a wing over their head. That's kind of like a kite, but it's right over your head instead of having long strings. So a lot of kite surfers are converting to the wing foiling, and they've also got the boards with a little airplane 2 feet, 3 feet under the board that looks, we call it a foil.
Yeah.
So they're up in the air above the water sailing along now. And it's just so magnificent. It's still a windy spot. So everybody wants to be here to do that too. So the water sports are really wonderful. Anyway, I don't know why, but 4 months after that world record, I was back on Maui and I ran into a friend of mine on the roadway and he said, Fred, I'm renting a helicopter at noon. Come to Ho'okipa. The biggest waves in the world are going to be breaking today. And I said, I'm not going to be there at noon. He says, what? He was kind of dramatic. What? Arno,
you got to do it. Yeah.
You got to do this. I'm spending $500 or $1,000 on the helicopter, and it's going to be the most magnificent photos, and you're going to get so much more press than your world record. I go, Yeah, but I've been sailing there the last 5 days. It's been huge, but it's getting bigger every day. And today's the day it's going to be sending the biggest wave at 4:30, not
4:30
at
p.m.
noon.
Oh gosh, what did he
I said,
do?
I'm into the tides are now, and at 4:30, the biggest wave's coming. No, you got to come there at noon. I said,
How did you know it was going to be 4:30? Just experience?
yes. I'm a weather watcher,
Yeah.
and actually, high tide, low tide, it shifts every day. And generally, you can think that high tides will be 1 hour forward in the next day. So each day, maybe it started at 11 or 12, the biggest waves were coming in, and then next day it was 12 to 1, next day it was 2 to 3. So now it was 4 o'clock. And I said, well, that's not going to work for me, because I'm just going to ride the biggest wave, and you can go get those photos of all your friends down below. And I pulled up to the beach at 3. The helicopter's there. They're shooting. I couldn't see anybody sailing because the waves were too big. You couldn't see from the beach. You had to go up on the cliffs. And I tried to get out. I rigged up, but the whitewaters were 30 feet. Breaking wave coming at you, and I'm trying to sail up them, but there wasn't enough wind to go up because I wasn't planing. So I'd get tumbled back and swim back in. And I did that 2 or 3 times. 30, 40 minutes went by. And finally I had a little bit of a leeway where the wave subsided for a few minutes and I was able to get out, but I still had to go over some big cresting waves, and my little board going up up the wave would fall off the back of it 20 feet. And these things were just going like this. I didn't know whether the wave was going to hit me. That was the scariest part, was going out. So I got out, and it's probably 4:15 now. I've been trying for 45 minutes to get out. Now I'm out, and I'm just sailing out and in and out. And I'd catch waves. When waves come, that's when the wind picks up, because it makes a squeeze of the wind, like a water hose. So I can actually plane when the sets are there. So I just ride the biggest wave in, and I didn't come all the way in to where it broke. I'd turn around because it wasn't big enough. I did that about 3 or 4 times and it wasn't big enough. And then I saw one wave standing about 2 miles out that was way bigger than everything else. And I turned around and started sailing toward shore, way ahead of it. Once it caught me, I had to speed up. And now it's 4:30, 4:45, and the wind's kind of turning a little more straight offshore. So I can't sail straight down the face. I have to sail at an angle, because straight down the face, there'd be no wind. I sail at an angle, and I sailed down to the bottom, pulled out in front, and I started opening and closing my sail. The wave breaking in front of me had, the back of it was like 20 plus feet of water going over, and it was blocking all my wind. So I'm in the middle of 2 waves now, but I've lost my wind, and I start going back up the face backwards.
Oh, geez.
In irons, and I'm sheeting in and out looking for the wind. The wave lands right behind my tail block. It goes over the top of me. And I start to let go of my rig, but I realize I'm not falling, but I'm in white water and I'm getting jumbled around. But all of a sudden I grab my booms again, and I get a little puff of air, and it pulls me out in front of the wave, and I sail all the way to the beach. And I go, oh my God, that was a really big wave.
How high was it?
It was probably 50 to 60 foot face. It looked like 6 stories from the top. That was scary part, trying to go look down and going, I better get down this thing before it breaks. I look up, and the beach is pretty empty now because it's late in the afternoon and it was early days, and there's no surfers there. But I see out of the corner of my eye, this guy running down the hill with a camera banging on his chest. And he's so excited. He's full charge down the hill. And it's my friend Arnaud, who wanted me to come at noon. And he said, I just took pictures of the biggest wave in the world, and this will make you more famous than your speed sailing record. I go, What else? Where'd you come from? He says, well, the helicopter dropped me off because I knew you were going to sail. So I waited for you. He says, I got a whole roll of film.
Oh my God.
Imagine that. Now we have a digital. It's, one of those old sayings, roll
of film. Yeah. Yeah. Hope he doesn't expose it. Right. Yeah. Remember those days? That's incredible. I mean, here's the thing, right? It doesn't happen if he doesn't get a photo of it. Like in today's world, it's like not real unless there's a video of it,
And you know what? He was the same person that had filmed my world record. So we were in this, in the same mode. He wanted to be a speed sailor, but he was also a photographer for Vogue and whatnot. But he was real famous. His big adventure was he had a book to write about sailing all the straits around the world. He had sailed the Bering Strait, and he was sailed a bunch of other straits, and he was attempting to sail the Formosa Strait from Taiwan to Red China, and the lows converged and it blew 90 knots and we never heard from him again. But he was a romantic, wonderful guy that had a lot of big dreams. So
literally lost his life sailing in the strait.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine, I saw a story where some guy told me he wrote a report that he was on a freighter in that same strait when two lows converged and it blew 90 knots. So you're not going to be taking, 90 knots on the ground is hard enough, but out in the water, you've got big seas to contend with. So unfortunately he passed.
Yeah.
But this was my sponsor said, this is the biggest 1-2 punch that I've ever seen anyone do for the sport of windsurfing. Wow. So riding a big wave and breaking a world record.
So speed and height. You kind of hit the home run with that.
I thought it was kind of like back when got a stroke tip.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to him about coming at noon. I said, I don't think that's right. I think it's going to be 4:30.
And he should have listened, right?
He did.
Yeah. And he did listen. And he came out and got his most famous photograph ever and made you famous as well for another reason. So I have to get to your memoirs though, right? We've only got about 5 minutes here, but I want to really your book is titled Racing with Aloha. So what does Aloha mean? And how do we incorporate that into our life and our business? And, what is the Aloha lifestyle, if you will?
Michael, you are selling with Aloha. Generosity, love, affection is Aloha, but it also can mean the opposite if you say it in a certain way. Aloha, brah. You can put someone down with you. It's kind of a sarcasm too, but generally Aloha is a sharing, giving, spirited situation that we run with and share the Aloha. We've got a campaign, Share the Aloha. It's going to start on Maui, where we're going to donate to nonprofits by people boosting photos where they can donate money at the same time. And that's coming on. And I'm going to be doing some things for the Surfrider Foundation to help clean beaches and keep water clean and bring awareness to the oceans and the beautiful underwater scenery too. But Racing with Aloha. You can go on racingwithaloha.com. It's my little website. There you can get the first 10 pages of the book. Laird Hamilton, famous waterman, wrote the foreword.
Yep.
Mark Spitz wrote endorsements, as well as a few other people. And I don't know, Michael, I don't know what we're supposed to do in life, but find eagle's nests and try to do something positive and make it worthwhile. Because if you take some challenges and you're successful, life is so much more rewarding. I'm so grateful to have met you and Star Power and watched your blossoming with the business, and to watch all of our friends in Star Power that originally are there now trying to pull it back together too, because it's that giving aloha spirit that everybody had. It's a place to come to learn and not to hide anything. There were no secrets, and I always felt that. I always helped everybody sell more real estate, swim faster, sail better. So I'm just looking forward to inspiring your son, who's a baseball fan, to read my adventures and learn my spirit of aloha, because that's what we need in this world. It's been a hard year and a half, 2 years, or should we say 4 years? Yeah. It's been difficult. The attitudes have all just permeated into the smellier side, and they need to get into the fresh rose, gardenia, plumeria, aloha side, and let's start working with positive spirit. And that's where I found I could write a book and inspire the youth, because I want kids to read a book that gets them to find their stoke. In surfing, we call it stoke. We're stoked. We got the best waves in the world. We're stoked.
That's right.
And you hit a sail, you make your big sail, you're stoked.
You're stoked.
What else is there? Hey, you're pretty stoked, but it ends. It's over, and you just got to find another one.
That's right. Find what stokes you next, right?
Yeah. And when I saw what you were doing with Generosity Generation, I said, man, you are on such a good stoke, because every day you get to stoke it up with everybody, and they are too. They see their successes, and their success are your success.
It's not, and it's not making people feel awkward, right? It's making people feel awesome. It goes back to that, like you said, the feel, feel, like a lot of sales techniques make people feel awkward. Not only the people that are receiving it, but the salespeople who are delivering it. Whereas what if we could just make people feel awesome? And that's, you live that, right? Selling, like I love this, because how you tied racing with aloha with selling with aloha. I truly believe we sell with aloha. I love that connection that you did there. And so they can go to Racing with Aloha to get the first few chapters, get a feel for it, but I know they're going to want to get it. Can they buy it at racingwithaloha.com as well?
Well,
where do they get it?
It's on Amazon, and the publisher, Morgan James in Virginia and New York, is publishing it. It'll be out on August 24th.
Okay.
And they wanted, they were thinking $19.95 or 20 something. I said, how about $17.95? Let's move the price down. And I think if you pre-order it, it might be $14.95. And there's only one picture of me on a big wave on the front cover, and it's just a big long story inside that'll be truly inspiring and moving, Michael. A few of my friends have cried and have had their dad experiences revealed to themselves because of what we were talking about. And I had one friend call me after page 50 in tears.
I'll tell you, that's feeling, right? Is we can talk about the branding, right? People talk about branding, and the brand is, people say, well, it's make them think of you first. Well, what you're talking about and what we talk about is all right, so there's the mind, and you want to be brand in the mind, but what about the heart? That's when they feel you. That's when you feel this is the right house, or I think that's a big thing that we're talking about here is I think more people need to get in touch with their heart. They need to get more in touch with, what does it really mean to race with Aloha? What does it mean to sell with? What does it mean to live with Aloha? Yeah. And I'm telling you that my life is better because of the interactions you and I have had with I have this thought of just relax, Michael, and just mahalo, aloha, relax, and just kick back. And I have to tell you, that's been really good for me. It's probably been really good for my health and my heart, physically, as well as my health and my heart mentally, mindset, is I've learned to just relax, right?
And
I've
Michael,
learned.
I learned something new from Deepak Chopra. He says, okay, when things are troubling, just put it in your fuck it pocket. I spell it F-U-K-I-T, pocket.
That's right. That's
pocket.
right. I totally know what he means by that.
Pocket.
Yeah.
Stick it in your pocket and move forward because, my dad always said half the people are going to like you and half are not going to like you. Get over it.
That's right.
You're not going to win all the challenges you do. Maybe half, maybe more you win. Who knows? But just move forward, keep moving forward. And you're never going to know what you want to do in life. You just got to try the next thing that you think you want to do. If something's not working now, we move to next, right? We move to next. When the sale doesn't work and someone's crying in the office, you say, okay, you got 24 hours to keep on crying. And after that, you got to move on to next.
That's right.
Same things in your life. When things aren't working with you, think about what you want to do and just take it on with a stoke and do the best you can do at it. That's what you're supposed to do with your children. Just tell them that it's okay to take that trip to adventure over there and I'll support you. Just do the best you can do at it. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay. It's okay. Just let it go. 2 weeks after attending Stanford, I flunked my first math test and I was called into the teacher's office after my English paper. I had 2 major disasters. I called my dad and I said, Dad, I think I want to come home.
So it was the math. What was the other one? It was the math.
English paper. I used a thesaurus to write my first Stanford English paper. I'm coming from Maui now. I've read maybe 1 or 2 hands full of books.
Yeah.
Wow. Dad says, what, you mean like quit? And I go, no, I'm just going to take a break, Dad. Maybe I'll just take the quarter off and come back next quarter. He goes, well, you have the rest of your life to make that decision, don't you, to quit? I said, yeah, I have the rest of my life to make that decision. He says, why don't you just give it 2 weeks and call me back? There's my dad. I was looking for compassion and I got it. He understood. He just said, give it 2 weeks and call me back.
Yeah.
I never called him back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But thank God that I had a dad that had the strength in him to see where I was at on many occasions, and to keep me in focus.
Yeah.
Because he said, hey, look at me. I never knew I'd be a doctor, but I'm doing it pretty good. I always wanted to be a marine biologist, Fred. I don't, because I asked him what I'm supposed to do after Stanford. He says, you'll never know. Just do what's in front of you well.
Man, your father was one wise fellow.
Yes, Montana boy.
Yeah. Wow. Montana to Maui. That's amazing.
Well, mom was amazing, like your mom. Loved life, just really sweetheart. Cherished them very much.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I have had a lot of podcasts, and what's interesting is a lot of podcasts, I become a better business person. I become a better person. What's interesting is during this podcast, I think I become a better dad.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. It's not just about selling with Aloha, racing with, it's really living with Aloha. And right. I want to say mahalo. I want to say thank you so much for coming on today to deliver. I mean, what an amazing life. And for you to share your wisdom and share your father's wisdom. This is one of those books that I truly believe people are going to read. They're going to reread. They're going to give it to their son. They're going to give it to their daughter. When people graduate, I see this book as a great graduation gift as well. Like, we're kind of talking back to school right now, but I really see this as becoming kind of a hot, like, graduation gift. I really do.
I think it would be wonderful. I do not have a single swear word. I swore more on your podcast than I did. There was no swearing. So
we seem to pull that out of people.
Clean.
No, I definitely understand.
And I might like to come to your event in September 30th in Scottsdale and say hello.
We'd love to have you. Bring books. Bring books. You got to bring your books.
I'll bring books, but send me the invite.
Well, dude.
Whatever information, and Deb and I will try to make it.
That'd be fantastic. I will send you that information, and I'll give everybody else some information right now about Referral Mastery Summit. It is rms21.com, rms21.com. Check it out. It is coming up in Scottsdale, the Hilton Scottsdale Resort and Villa. Is a very nice resort. We are the only event in the entire resort, so we are going to kind of own the resort for 3 days. It's going to be really, really nice. But here's the thing. If it's one of those where, you know what, you're going to come for the great content, you're going to come for the great resort, but what's really going to get you are the great people, the connections of a lifetime. You're going to come for that, but what you might walk out with, here's the thing, is like, what's the worst thing that could happen if you win? Right? What's the worst thing that could happen? Here's the thing. What's the best thing that could happen if you win? The best thing that could happen is you could end up with the referral of a lifetime. That has happened at many of our events. You meet the person who ends up giving you the referral of a lifetime. So that's Referral Mastery Summit. Thank you, Fred. I really, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you so much for coming on Referrals Podcast. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you, Michael. And bless your family, your wife and your son, and keep on the good stoke and spread the alohas and be the best dad out there that you can be, because that's what it's all about now.
100%. Thank you. And
right on.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I am stoked. I'm more stoked now than I was in the very beginning. I was stoked to have this interview. I'm even more stoked now for you to listen to it. Here's the deal. You like what you heard today, rate us, review us, but most of all, share this. Share this with a 12-year-old kid. Share this with a teenager. Share this with a high schooler. I mean, who needs the message that you need to hang out with the Eagles? You need to go to the Eagles nest, hang out with those that are doing better, to push yourself, how to handle adversity, how to overcome that and become your truest, biggest self, how to set world records, how to take your business to the next level, how to live your life with aloha. I'm telling you, today's message is one for everyone. I hope you take the minute to share it. Thank you all so much for being on Referrals Podcast today, and we will see you on the next episode of Referrals Podcast.